whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today, but if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on do our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates. And for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel GBoot2786. All right,
Commonwealth of
I'll holla.
Pennsylvania
Peace.
versus William H. Cosby Jr., the destruction of due process in America. For approximately 2 years now, I have gone on a painstaking quest to investigate the rise and fall of an American icon, Bill Cosby. In the mid-1980s, there was not a star that was higher than Cosby. Advertisements with Coca-Cola, Jello, Kodak, along with the #1 television show for 5 straight years in a row. On Thursday nights, it was must-see TV on NBC. Cosby resurrected the genre of the traditional family sitcom that was once thought dead by television critics. He did this as a Black American with an all-Black cast and showed mainstream network executives in white America that it was possible to be successful without showing the worst in people. He also demonstrated the power that television had, as it can make younger people dream to be the best that they can be. However, like many celebrity stars, unfortunately, they all come crashing down, sometimes by their own fault, others not so much. In this book, I attempted to highlight certain things. We go in depth into both of his trials in 2017 and 2018, respectively. What if I told you that these criminal trials were politically motivated by an overzealous district attorney? Will you also be shocked to learn the attacks on Mr. Cosby did not start in 2014, but also in the 90s, not long after his attempted quest to purchase a major network? From where did all of these allegations of sexual misconduct come from? Were the accusers telling the truth? In the 2 years of research, with some help from others interested in learning the truth and facts about this case, we discussed both the legal reasons why his prosecution and trial were illegal, unwarranted, and also the possible personal motives as to why this may have occurred. Most importantly, we warn about the dangers of prejudice and why trial by social media, or mainstream media rather, should never be the norm. All this and more in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr., the destruction of due process in America. Available on Amazon this fall in Kindle and paperback format.
Whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you're blessed and doing safe. Greetings, family. Welcome to another edition of Random Topic Sundays here on channel GBoot2786. We hit that like, share, and subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. Also, I need you to hit that notification bell for whenever we go live. We love to have you all get notifications when we go live, because as you know, YouTube has us on a shadow ban. And we also want to welcome all of our new guests and friends that are here to this channel. Thank you all that are new to this channel. I thank you all those that have always helped contribute to it. I appreciate it. Welcome. What's up, nerds? How you doing? Good evening. Our following topics are January 6th committee to hold a symbolic vote. Biden apologizes for America's original sin, pledges 55 billion to the African continent. The Tory Lanez trial gets weirder and weirder. And what are your plans for the holidays, ladies and gentlemen? All this and more tonight on the channel. What are your plans? What do you do on Christmas, ladies and gentlemen? So, in the meantime, we also, I'm going to go ahead and just get started with the show, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, I didn't want to play Get On Up tonight. All right. What's up, family? Y'all excuse my appearance. I've been working, doing some stuff in the yard, trying to get stuff together for the for Christmas, for the holidays, the seasons, greetings, all of that. I need you also to please, if you see it, the ticker at the bottom, donate to the PayPal, Cash App, Zelle. Ladies and gentlemen, support this channel. As you know, we're on a shadow ban, so anything you can contribute, I greatly appreciate. So, speaking of which, I want to ask, what are your plans for the holidays, ladies and gentlemen? Um, Christmas is here. I know there are some people, some of my viewers who may not celebrate the Christmas season. I know there are some of you who do celebrate it. I do, like me. I enjoy. I mean, it's part of my youth. It's part of my childhood. So I do celebrate Christmas and uh, the holiday. However, I know some people don't. And I also know some people might be doing stuff for Kwanzaa. If we got any fellow if we got Jewish people watching, today is the first day of Hanukkah, the festival of lights. You shishified little punks. You better light those damn candles and man up when you're lighting them. I don't know why. I just felt like doing Judge Joe Brown. You shishified punks. But what are your plans, if you have any? I'm actually doing a poll right now. I want to know what your plans for the holidays. So uh, we're gonna ask you. I actually got three options. Okay, I got three options. Nothing but relaxing, traveling, hanging with the family, hanging with family. So you all pick which one you're gonna be doing. I'm gonna be home for the most part. I don't really have too many much plans. A couple years ago, I used to travel. I went to Vegas, Cincinnati, and I went to Vegas for Christmas and New Year's, respectfully. Went respectfully. I went and saw my brother for Christmas, and I spent it with his family. And then that next week, as it got to New Year's, I hung out in Las Vegas, which was cool, minus the fight that I had. But I enjoyed it nonetheless. I got to party. I saw Tiger, who was performing at this club. I think it was not at the MGM. Is it at the Wynn or the Aria? I think it was the Aria Hotel, which Vegas is just all Vegas is, guys, is one big desert. I can only, and I was there at night. I could only imagine how many bodies were buried underneath all those casinos that they had on the strip. But it was nice. It was cold too, and even though it's in the desert, Vegas is cold. But I have family that's out in Vegas. Shout out to them as well. Uh, so that's primarily my plans. I haven't gone and visited anywhere since. But yeah, so everybody says they're gonna be chilling for the holidays, or I don't know what we got. We're gonna have that running through the show. What are your plans for the holidays? Uh, so I'm gonna have that running up. What's up, Amara Woods? What's up, family? Come on, let's share and share. Hit that notification bell and let's share this live stream. We get more people in. We got some people, I'm sure, on G Boot on the G Boot 2786 on Gavin Richard. Uh, Nerd says he doesn't celebrate. He's just gonna sleep and clean. Nathan Banks, Bookie. What's up, family? What's up? Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. All right, we're gonna get started, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna get started. Let's talk about this. One thing I want to talk about tonight. Uh, this January 6th committee that's gonna hold the symbolic vote. You've heard me correctly. Now, this is coming courtesy of the Today Show. What's going on, as you know, for the past year, ever since the debacle that was the January 6th riot, as they call it, they have been looking to bring some type of charges against Captain Orange, Donald Trump. Now, mark my words, and you all know already figured this out because my audience is smart. This, of course, is nothing but a ploy to go after the boogeyman and to make the Democrats feel vindicated about going after Donald Trump, in my personal opinion. And reason why I say that is because this committee is not a grand jury. A grand jury, when they want to, not even a grand, if a grand jury wants to bring charges against someone, that is the only group of people that are authorized to bring charges, or the attorney general, or a prosecutor of some sorts, if they have probable cause to support that. Here, you have a committee that's trying to investigate what happened at the United States Capitol on that day. But they're focusing on Donald Trump because Donald Trump is the boogeyman. And they need a boogeyman in which to bring charges like this. Now, you got to realize, too, the presidential election is not that far away. And, when the candidates want to run for election, they start early, like around 2023. So, without question, because Donald Trump is stating that he wants to run for president again, this is politically motivated. Now, I'm going to play this clip from this video from today. It's only about 2 minutes and 27 seconds, and you're going to hear how the this committee is planning to hold, as it's titled, a symbolic vote on criminal charges for Trump.
Deliberations for the January 6th committee, wrapping up a weekend of debate ahead of the panel's last scheduled meeting Monday, where congressional investigators will vote on whether to advance potential criminal referrals for former President Trump, considering a range of offenses for actions he took leading up to and during the Capitol riot, including insurrection, obstruction of Congress, and conspiracy to defraud the government. While all are possible, 3 sources actively involved in the discussions tell NBC News no final call has been made yet. Once determined, those recommendations would go to the Department of Justice, where the Attorney General has the ultimate say, as Special Counsel Jack Smith continues his 2-track investigation into Mr. Trump. If indicted, it would be the first time in history for an American president. The January 6th committee spent the last year and a half building its case against Mr. Trump.
We are obligated to seek answers directly from the man who set this all in motion,
painting him as a central figure in the attack.
I think he is absolutely guilty. If he is not guilty of some kind of a crime, I mean, what we've basically said is presidents are above the law and they can do everything short of a coup as long as it doesn't succeed.
While the former president has repeatedly lashed out against the group.
Witch hunts, hoaxes, abuses have been coming fast and furious.
But legal experts say it's easier for the committee to endorse criminal referrals than for DOJ to prosecute them.
DOJ and prosecutors have long known that a president is a very influential person, and that would be a very difficult defendant to convict in front of a jury, some of whom may have voted for that president.
And tomorrow, the committee will also present a summary of its final report, which could be about 8 chapters long, outlining the biggest takeaways from the more than 1,000 witness interviews they conducted. That's set to become public by Wednesday. Willie?
Big day on Capitol Hill tomorrow. Monica Alba starting us off at the White House. Monica, thanks so much.
Hey.
So they can only recommend charges that be brought, and it's up to the Department of Justice, as you even said, to even decide whether they're going to bring it or not. But you saw that it was entitled Symbolic Vote. This is dead in the water, and I said this when it started. Remember when this January 6th committee convened, It was the number one viewed when it started. It had the ratings on that program on this had been watched by at least 20 million people. This was on October 13th. According to the New York Times, at least 20 million people watched the January 6th hearing. ABC attracted the biggest audience with 5.2 million viewers, and NBC and CBS had an audience of more than 3 million. MSNBC averaged 4, and CNN drew 2.7. This is according to the New York Times. Now, this was in October, but this is convened. When this convened, this was actually a little bit earlier than that this year, and the numbers were actually higher. When this happened in July, it was about 18 million people that tuned in to finale of January 6th hearings. This is from Bloomberg. So now they said Fox News originally led back in June 29th. They had only about 3.09 million who watched the hearings on MSNBC, and a 2.2 million that watched on CNN. Fox only averaged 727,000, so their ratings were bad. But mark my word, but the point of this, guys, when this started back in June, and if I remember correctly, this is June 22nd, and if I'm not mistaken, Juneteenth was on, which was made a public holiday on June 20th. So it's the summertime. People are watching the January 6th committee hearings. Now, what was going on in June of 2022 news? Now, this is on CNN. Around that time, if I'm not mistaken, you had this. Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court's decision on Roe v. Wade was leaked. At least the draft of that decision was leaked around that time. So then the focus changed. The focus changed. This is what, let me go back because you all can see it. I'm sorry I shared this here, but this is dated June 30th. How Supreme Court decision on Roe v. Wade could affect the fertility industry. This was the big news because if you recall correctly, that video, that opinion was leaked. I believe around the same time these hearings commenced. And then that took over. So it is not a coincidence, ladies and gentlemen, as to why this was leaked. Because I remember it was on a Monday when this story broke. Yes. I believe it was a week before. So before the committee hearing started. So it's not a surprise that now we're still talking about this. Do you all think Donald Trump is actually going to do time in jail, or is the DOJ rather is going to bring charges to prosecute? This is to prevent him from running for office again. My opinion. That's what these hearings are about. That's what these facts means to me. Now, some of you may disagree with me, but prove me wrong. Y'all hit that like, share, and subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Next thing I want to talk about, Biden apologizes for America's original sin. Now, earlier this week, President Biden apologized for the unimaginable cruelty of America's original sin, which we know as slavery, during a White House summit with African leaders this week, where at least one leader mocked America amid China's increasing influence in the continent. The president said, "We remember the stolen men and women and children were brought to our shores in chains." I think he meant to say, who were brought to our shores in chains. My nation's original sin was that, period. Biden is promising the continent of Africa to bring to the continent of Africa $55 billion to fight climate change and increase trade. Now, you read this article from the Free Bacon. I said free bacon, it's free beacon. But yes, free the bacon. Slavery is not unique to America and has been was practiced all over. Who's got these typos in here? Damn. And was practiced all over the globe throughout human history, including in Africa, where there are still an estimated 9.2 million people enslaved. The apology comes as Democrats appear increasingly open of paying reparations to the descendants of African slaves, though nobody has nailed down exactly how such a system would work. A California task force ordered by the state legislature to figure out a reparations rollout cannot agree on simple details such as how much money would need to be distributed and who would get it. Now, reparations advocates have set their sights on the United Kingdom, where slavery was abolished in 1833. CNN commentator Don Lemon recently pressed a British guest on the issue and was told that Africa was the beginning of the slave supply chain. Now, they always got to do this whenever black people start arguing for their reparations. They always got to bring up it was in Africa. It was in Africa. Understand something. While slavery, ladies, brothers, and sisters, was in Africa, it is true. And yes, they are responsible. Those people were responsible in some part in what happened to black people in this country. The concept of chattel slavery was very unique and uniquely and specifically woven here in the United States of America. There was no chattel slavery in Africa like they had in America that was created by the Europeans. I'm talking about chattel slavery. See, they say slavery. I'm talking about chattel slavery. You were considered property. Slaves were, in ancient times, considered members of a family. They were lower class. If there was a war fought, then and someone survived what we call POWs, they would be slaves. If it was Roman times, it was ancient time, it was Greek times in Greece, or in Roman times. And in Africa, they were allowed to keep traditions of their family. They were allowed to keep their names. They were allowed to keep their language, their heritage. Africans that were transported here to the New World, or in the triangular slave trade or the transatlantic slave trade, they were not allowed to keep that. And like you saw in the film Roots, you said your African name and didn't acknowledge your given name, you were whipped. You were tortured. So it doesn't surprise me. And this $55 billion, you got to understand, this is not reparations. This is to climate change. You got to realize whenever the United States or United Kingdom or whoever is giving monies to a continent, to countries, to a continent, mark my words, there are strings attached with it. This is not out of the goodness of their heart. It is not. This is planned. But I want you to listen. This is my first time even listening to this. And looking at this, somebody wrote, they call it beast mode, Bricks smacks down Don Lemon on reparations. Now, they know the reason why, and now this is somebody from Britain that's commenting on reparations. And they know that the monies that European nations, especially in modern times, is built on their families. That money was built on the backs of blacks. That money was built on slavery. It was built on war. It was built on blood. I'm just saying it for the first time. So
and then you have those who are asking for reparations for colonialism, and they're wondering, $100 billion, $24 billion here and there, 500 million there. Some people want to be paid back, and members of the public are wondering, why are we suffering when you are, you have all of this vast wealth? Those are legitimate concerns.
Well, I think you're right about reparations in terms of if people want it, though, what they need to do is you always need to go back to the beginning of a supply chain. Where was the beginning of the supply chain? That was in Africa. And when across the entire world, when slavery was taking place, which was the first nation in the world that abolished slavery? The first nation in the world to abolish it. It was started by William Wilberforce, was the British. In Great Britain, they abolished slavery. 2,000 naval men died on the high seas trying to stop slavery. Why? Because the African kings were rounding up their own people. They had them on cages waiting in the beaches. No one was running into Africa to get them. And I think you're totally right. If reparations need to be paid, we need to go right back to the beginning of that supply chain and say, who was rounding up their own people and having them handcuffed in cages?
So what she's trying to do, and what they have here, they want to absolve, what she's trying to do is basically absolve Europe and their role in the slave trade. Well, the British, they abolished slavery in 1833. The British Empire, first and foremost, the British Empire is responsible for practically all of colonialism in the world. They were the leading empire, and they were, you talk about Australia, you talk about China, you talk about parts of Africa, they played a role in it. So she can't even talk on that. Second of all, with the supply chain, and you're talking about, as I stated before, yes, there were kings who rounded up their people and put them into slavery and traded with the Europeans, the British, the French, the Spanish, the Portuguese, and so forth. Again, chattel slavery was different. And yes, I think an argument can be made. I agree with her on this, that an argument can be made for reparations against nations, getting it from nations in Africa because of the impact it had on descendants. But when you sue someone, like we do in court, for instance, and you're in a car accident, the car driver isn't the only one that's sued. The insurance company gets sued as well. The person that owned the car gets sued as well. That's called solidary liability. You have a group of obligors that are responsible. It's the same thing if you have a car note and you had a cosigner on the car note and the loan defaults. They don't just sue the person who drives the car the most. They sue who's ever on that note. Everybody on that note is responsible. So, excuse me, Madam Britt. Madam Britt. You are not absolved from this at all. You're not absolved from this, Mary Poppins. Yeah, that movie's on demand now. My folks watched it. I watched some of it. I didn't get what the hype about it was. Did anybody see Emancipation with Will Smith? Yeah. So yeah, of course they got to have these people like that. And look, Don Lemon, I'm sure, just from looking at Don Lemon, is not the guy you want answering any questions for you on your behalf, arguing against slavery, or arguing on behalf of foundational Black Americans for slavery, for reparations against slavery, because Don Lemonade has a history of making some of the most nauseating statements about Black Americans. So I'm not anything Don Lemonade plans. I'm not interested. I'm not buying. Screw them. I'm tired of slave. Snake J said, "No, I'm tired of slave movies." He said, "You'll pass on Emancipation." It was a fairly good movie. You know, it is a slave movie. I've always been of the mindset originally, especially when I was a kid coming up, that those movies were necessary to show our young people the history behind it. It's important so people will know who these people were. They were historic figures. But I also think the issue with most things is that it's just the same way I criticize stars, is that there's no balance. We know that there are Black people who are drug dealers, who are low down, who are crooked. But the same goes for whites. And also, there are Black people who are loyal. There are Black people who are hardworking, who fight, who work hard, who provide for their children, their families. And we don't talk about that. We don't see that on television often. There's no TV show like I wouldn't have a problem so much with I don't have a problem so much with BMF and Power if they had a Kevin Hill show. A show something like a show similar in that nature where you saw a Black father who was an attorney taking care of his adopted kid. That stuff we don't have. It's like what Dave Chappelle tried to do, a show where he wanted an all-Black cast, and the white TV executives told him you needed to have a white man. You needed to have more. Dave Chappelle's characters had to have more white people in it. And he said absolutely not. Yes, the agenda in that was obvious. Oh yes, there were two different agendas in that we're talking about now. But the agenda is always present in that type of stuff. I got one final topic, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about, but don't let them talk you out of this. But whenever there's money behind this stuff, where they're going to pledge money, know that there's always a string to it. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart or repentance for repentance sake. I can tell you for a fact, Barack Obama, and I've said this before, the United States back in 2014, it was around 2013, 2014, they had some information on a terrorist group out in Nigeria called the Boko Haram. And a former congressman who his name escapes me now, said that the United States was withholding information because they wanted, they were upset with Nigeria's stance against gay marriage. This was a congressman, his name was Steve Stockman. Now, this video is no longer available for some reason. My guess is because of the nature of LifeSite News. Now, whether you're Catholic, you support or believe in God or not, that's another issue. But if you read this article, U.S. Congressman Steve Stockman was one member of the full-person U.S. congressional delegation sent to Nigeria in the months after the horrific kidnapping of over 250 schoolgirls, who sadly all have been reported murdered. And they were murdered by the Islamic terrorist group Boko Haram. He was the only Republican on the delegation. And in an exclusive interview with LifeSite News, Stockman confirmed that during his June of 2014 delegation to Nigeria, top U.S. brass told him they had intelligence to aid the Nigerian military to crush the terrorist group Boko Haram, but were blocked by the Obama administration from doing so. What was the reason for the refusal of the critical intelligence? According to Stockman, it was over Nigeria's stance against same-sex marriage. According to Stockman, he stated, yeah, and I hinted at that when I asked the question, and I think it was acknowledged. He said, yeah, that is the policy. They, referring to the Obama administration, want to see gay marriage adopted around the world, and it's not just in Nigeria, but it is an active policy. When questioned by LifeSite News, the United States Department categorically denied any link between U.S. government assistance and Nigeria's same-sex stance. State Department spokesman Noel Clay added that the United States is providing equipment, advice, training, and information support for ongoing counter Boko Haram efforts. Such counterterrorism aid has been provided for the last several years, he said. Despite the State Department's attestations, however, Stockman's point about the withholding of key intel from Nigeria has been corroborated by Pentagon officials. Army Colonel Steve Warren, a Pentagon spokesman, told Military.com in May of 2014 that the intelligence gathered by the surveillance flights over Nigeria to find the schoolgirls will not be shared with President Goodluck Jonathan's government, but declined to say why the information was being withheld. At this point, we're not sharing new intelligence data. Moreover, the Obama administration has been clear about enforcing a gay rights agenda throughout the world. When Nigeria signed its same-sex marriage prohibition into law in January of last year, U.S. leaders reacted with dismay. John Kerry, who was the Secretary of State, called the move dangerous, adding that the Obama administration saw it as inconsistent with Nigeria's international legal obligation and undermines democratic reforms and human rights protections. Hillary Clinton, who was John Kerry's predecessor, have called for promoting the gay rights agenda around the world a top priority for U.S. foreign policy makers. So the point I'm making to you all, brothers and sisters, is that, well, aside from the agenda, what I'm saying is that if Joe Biden is pledging $55 million to the African continent, there's a reason behind it. What it is has yet to be seen, but My theory is that this might be part of it. I also think the minerals, the minerals and the resources in Africa are very valuable, as it's always been. That's why it was colonized for centuries by different European nations. When they took the diamonds, whether it be diamonds, whether it be oil, like they have in the Sudan, and what's going is there's just a bunch of resources there. So the cobalt that's out there in the Congo, all of that is tied in. So mark my words, this is not being done out of the goodness of his heart. But y'all hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We're gonna go to our last topic, ladies and gentlemen. My last topic is about this Tory Lanez trial. It has gotten weirder and weirder and weirder. Now, those that know may or may not know what's going on. I had followed and heard, that Meg Thee Stallion back in 2020 was involved in some type of altercation with her boyfriend at that time, Tory Lanez. Lanez is a Canadian rapper. Meg Thee Stallion, of course, we know the body singer, rapper. She's done songs like Body, Body, and WAP. She was shot in the foot and reportedly by her boyfriend, Tory Lanez, over a fight. Now, this occurred in 2020 when they were leaving a party at Kylie Jenner's house. Now, what a lot of people don't know recently, is that if you have been following the trial, I learned today the bodyguard for Megan Thee Stallion has disappeared. Justin Edison, the bodyguard of Meg Thee Stallion, was set to testify at her trial, at this trial in Tory Lanez's trial. However, as of now, the police are investigating his disappearance. Now, I must clarify from current reports that I have seen, they can't actually say it's an active disappearance. However, he is nowhere, has not, according to my research, been seen because the trial has been going on for the past week and a half. And I believe it's the defense's turn now that they're presenting their case in chief. I shouldn't say their case in chief. The case in chief is for the prosecutors, but they're presenting their case. And as of yesterday, Justin Edison reportedly has been missing. And this is according to ABC.
Lanez is accused of shooting Megan Thee Stallion in the foot after a 2020 party in the Hollywood Hills. Now, the LA District Attorney's Office looking into the disappearance of Justin Edison. Edison is Megan Thee Stallion's former security guard. He was supposed to take the stand yesterday. Megan's lawyer says they welcome any information about his whereabouts.
I have not really followed this trial, like talking about it. I've just been paying attention. From my girl was telling me stuff about it, and I've heard what different people have been saying. I've been seeing stuff trending on Twitter. Shout out to Dennis Byron. He is, of course, with Hip Hop News Inquirer, and Dennis, the Hip Hop Inquirer, I should say. And Dennis has been tweeting about it. They were even having a trial on Saturday. They will go in the weekends on this to try and get a verdict because obviously they don't want to have the jury deliberating over the Christmas holiday. And I don't think the jury wants to do that. But some more information even came out now because the prosecutors had their DNA expert testify at the trial, and they concluded, that expert said that the DNA that was found on the gun was inconclusive. In other words, they could not see Tory Lanez's DNA on that firearm. However, The defensive expert, and I'm quoting what Genesis State wrote here, says on a trial update, Tory Lanez defense attorney has called their first expert witness, Mark Taylor. Taylor is a DNA expert who testified that Tory's DNA was not found on the firearm. However, they did find a woman's DNA on the gun. This is directly from Dennis Byron. So I like to shout him out just as much as I do ABC 7 or any other news station, but I want to get this, I want y'all to see, because this brother's been in the courtroom. Now, he goes on further stating, and you can read here, they say the DNA on the gun was inconclusive in Tory Lanez's trial. He also says that in contrast to the prosecutor's DNA expert who testified earlier that Tory's DNA was inconclusive, the defense witness has conducted over 3,500 DNA tests, while the prosecutor's expert has done barely half that many DNA tests. Now, yes, it depends on who could have the DNA, how they can get the gun analyzed after the prosecution did. So it could have touched multiple hands. There's something called the chain of custody that could be involved in it. However, remember what Tory Lanez is accused of is firing a gun 5 times. And so the defense attorney, according to what Nancy Dillon, who is with a reporter for Rolling Stone magazine, she says that the defense called their DNA expert out of order. He agreed with LAPD that DNA on gun inconclusive as to Tory, but would have expected conclusive for someone who fired 5 times. Now, there was an interview, of course, where Meg Thee Stallion's ex-former best friend, Kelsey Harris, did an interview. They've talked about how they broke up, and I think my understanding, and I got to be careful with my words, I don't know if this had, if I'm not mistaken, this had something to do with her sleeping with Tory. I could be correct me if I'm wrong. But jurors heard Friday from the lengthy interview that Megan Thee Stallion's former friend Kelsey Harris gave to prosecutors in September, where she vividly recalled Lanez firing 5 shots, leaving Megan wounded on the ground. The recording was played at Lanez's felony assault trial in Los Angeles after Harris took the witness stand this week and disavowed key aspects of the September statement, flat out denied she saw Lanez pull the trigger. Harris, also known as Kelsey Nicole, was heard on recording calmly corroborating Megan's prior testimony that Lanez, whose legal name is Daystar Preston, brandished a firearm and pointed it at the sweetest pie rapper during a drunken roadside dispute in pre-dawn hours of July 12th of 2020. They say, now let me fix this tweet for y'all since Nancy's working for Rock Nation. But here's the thing. If it was in, so, and you see how she says it's damning, they say it's damning for the defense. If you have a DNA expert testifying that it was inconclusive, that if you have a prosecutor who says it's inconclusive and the defense attorney defense expert agrees, and he who has, according to the sources, done this over 3,500 times versus how many times the prosecutor has done it, he's seen his fair share and would know that if a trigger was pulled by an individual, his DNA would have to have been on that. Then that is actually a victory for the defense, because there's something, as we all look for as attorneys, is creating reasonable doubt. Defense attorneys look to see where there is doubt in the case. And if you cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt, as we talk about my family time and time again, that Tory Lanez pulled this trigger, because remember also, I believe this same witness pled the fifth. There are more holes than there are more holes in Meg Thee Stallion's story than there are holes in Swiss cheese. And I wasn't there. Yes, it could be true that he could have done this, but when I'm looking at the expert witness testimony, when I'm looking at the physical evidence, something is not adding up. Now, if he is convicted, Tory Lanez is facing not only deportation because he's from Canada, he's also, the main thing is the 22 years in prison he's facing, because you're talking about felony assault with a deadly weapon. And I think it's three charges that he has. So she says, Nancy Dillon, in her first statement, if you read this, she says, in a damaging day for Tory Lanez's defense, they played this audio. But remember this person, but then you had a witness who pled the fifth, which hurt the prosecutor's case. Kelsey Harris pled the fifth. Now,
just thrown a wrench in the case with her testimony, or maybe I should say lack thereof. Now, Megan Thee Stallion was in a Los Angeles courtroom Tuesday as part of the assault trial against Lanez. The prosecution maintains that Megan, Lanez, and Megan's former friend Kelsey Harris were in a car after a get-together at Kylie Jenner's house when there was some sort of argument. When she got out of the car, Megan claimed she heard Lanez tell her to dance and saw the gun in his hand. Either bullets or shrapnel hit her in the foot. On the stand, Megan was emotional, saying that the aftermath of the shooting included backlash against her on social media and from the rap industry, and that this has been very difficult for her. Now, on the other side, Lanez says it was actually Kelsey who fired the gun, and he's being set up. But in a new twist, Kelsey was given immunity by prosecutors after invoking her Fifth Amendment right while on the stand. And during her testimony, she decided not to answer crucial questions about the case. So I want to bring in my co-host and defense attorney, Brian Buckmeyer. Brian, this is all just happened before the lunch break in the West Coast case. What is going on right now?
Jesse, Kelsey Harris was asked when Tory threatened to shoot you, exactly what did Tory say? But she wouldn't answer, instead pleading the fifth multiple times before the judge let the jury out to go for lunch.
So she pled the fifth despite getting what I believe is transactional immunity from the prosecutors out of this case. Transactional immunity is full immunity. It's known as blanket immunity. It protects the witness from future prosecution for crimes related to her testimony. I don't know what type of immunity. She was given immunity. They didn't say, but did they say transactional immunity? But nevertheless, if the DA granted her immunity in exchange for her testimony and said he had no intent to prosecute her for this matter, and she pled the fifth, then they got a problem. There is a big problem with this. There is a big problem with this testimony, with this trial.
Pleading the fifth is everyone's right, and Kelsey Harris is welcome to use it without it being held against her, especially considering she has immunity. But it can be used as evidence or lack thereof in asking whether or not Tory Lanez is guilty of the crimes he is charged with. And this does not look good for the prosecution. If Harris is pleading the fifth and the judge is allowing it, then Harris's attorney must have been able to explain to the judge that there's some potential crime that she could be admitting to. Now, she has immunity, which was given to her pretty easily. That might explain something to the jury, but this is their star witness, and it looks like it's falling apart.
Yeah, let me bring in co-host and former trial attorney Terry Austin on this. So, Terry, based on what we've heard so far, what's your theory about who actually shot Megan Thee Stallion or shot at Megan Thee Stallion?
You know, at first I really thought it was Tory Lanez, and she said she saw him shoot at her. But now we have Kelsey, who's on the stand, and she has immunity, and yet she's not saying whether it was she who shot that gun. So it's unclear to me whether or not Lane shot the gun, whether or not Kelsey shot the gun. And if she really does want to protect herself, then she is protected with this immunity agreement. She can go ahead and say, look, it was me, I did it. But she is not saying that. So I'm a little bit confused at this point. I'm not sure. I think we have to see more evidence. And in fact, I think no matter what anybody says, whose gun was that and whose bullet was it?
I thought the whole case itself had a lot of drama. Who knew that this was going to happen in a courtroom? It's just an unpredictable, complicated aspect about it. And I should tell you, this case, which has been more than 2 years in the making, is getting a lot of attention on social media, especially among journalists, music journalists, and fans. People came out to the courthouse to show their support for Megan Thee Stallion.
People of color being victims of domestic violence, they are often villainized. It's not right, and it's unfortunate because there is no perfect victim per se at the end of the day. If you are a strong person and you have a voice and you stand up for yourself and you stand up for your boundaries, you're villainized. So our job is to stand with survivors. We're here to make sure that survivors know that they have a voice, they have an opportunity to come forward, and it's really scary to do so.
But this is the problem. You're going off, oh, believe women. This is the problem. This is the shit we were talking about with the Cosby case. Because an issue is sensitive doesn't mean that the facts of that are substantiated or proven true. And that's a problem. Yes, you have a First Amendment right. Yes, you want to support people that have women who have been victimized in DV cases, but we got to know all of the facts that have come out of this, if it's true or not. If it's true that this person did this, yes, they deserve to deserve to be punished to the full extent of the law. If you can't prove it, back off and be man enough to apologize. And if you lied, I don't know what charges, if there could be brought now against them. Now, of course, with transactional immunity, now they may have not said what type of immunity it is, but it doesn't matter, Vulcan, because if the prosecutor said, I'm not prosecuting you out of this case, anything out of this case that you were involved in any way, shape, or form, and I'm assuming it was in writing, I'm assuming she went over it with her attorneys, then there's really nothing. They have a problem. They have a problem proving their case. I'm confused about this myself. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. If this is proven, if this girl, if the prosecutors brought this, they have egg on their face. If they, especially with the DNA experts saying it's inconclusive, you can't prove his fingerprints were on it. Yes, there are text messages, I believe, where purportedly he offered monies to pay Megan Thee Stallion to keep quiet. That's damning, but there's no footage proof that he actually fired a weapon. My understanding also, there were no powder burns, no gunpowder or gun residue found on Tory Lanez. So That would be big also. Okay, so I apologize. No, I got to correct this. It says that he tested positive for gunshot residue. According to what Nancy Dillon wrote. But here's the thing. Lance testified, he tested positive for it, but so did Kelsey Harris. And gunpowder, you got to realize this happened in a car, right? So if it happened in a car, gunpowder residue travels in small spaces. A car is not a big space. I'm sure if they had a little kid inside the car and he's around, the gunpowder could have ended up on his hands. We know the kid didn't do it. This could end in a mistrial or an acquittal. It could go guilty. I would be surprised, but there would be some grounds probably to get it thrown out. But this is some bullshit, and this is BS. This is bad for the prosecutor.
All right, so this is a case that's going to leave people divided. We move now to an update for you in Moscow, Idaho.
I honestly don't think the prosecutors, this is me personally, have enough to have met their burden. Remember, it's always the state's burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury of 12 men that are the trier of fact. Sometimes it can be a judge that the prosecutors have met every element of that crime. I don't think they can do that. And now Tory Lanez is charged with 1 felony count of assault with a semi-automatic firearm and carrying a loaded unregistered firearm in a vehicle. So that's his actual charge. But he's facing 22 years in prison if convicted. So his life is on the line. And if Megan, I can't say too much because I actually knew someone, I think, that was investigating this. But yeah, he had 3 felonies. He was hit with a 3rd felony charge for discharging a firearm with gross negligence. So that's the 3. Not felony counts for assault with a semi-automatic firearm, carrying a loaded unregistered firearm in a vehicle, and for negligent discharging of a firearm. So that's why he can face 22 years in prison. But y'all can check out this article on Rolling Stone magazine, family. I'm about to roll out in a second. Let's look at the polls here. I'm looking right now because I still have that poll up. We got 16 votes. 75% of you say you're going to do nothing but relaxing. 6% of you said you're going to be traveling. And 19% of you said you're going to be hanging with the family. Well, if you're traveling, you're more than likely going to be hanging with the family. If you're doing nothing, you're going to be hanging with the family. So that's primarily it. But you may have some single people here. Who knows? We're just going to stay and put. But we want to thank, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I want to thank you all for being here. Please donate to the Cash App and PayPal and Zelle. We also want to acknowledge and put up a fair use disclaimer for all of the media images that were shown and played here for you all, ladies and gentlemen. Danielle said the daughter's getting over the woo-woo, the Wuhan, the woo-woo. That's what Torian calls it. Well, I'm glad she's doing much better, Danielle. But we're going to get out of here, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back Tuesday to do another live stream. We're going to try and move things quick. By the way, I need y'all to go to, I've got to promote this. If you're trying to get some seasoning, the mailing system is tight, but we're going to try and get y'all some Nornish Creole blends if you want to order some. go and get you some Nani's Creole blends, ladies and gentlemen. Try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nani's goes great with every dish. It also goes on salad, just enough to light up your palate. So you wanna get you some Nani's, ladies and gentlemen. You're gonna enjoy it. It's real good. Who else we got going on? I think I'm gonna do a special show, so we're gonna yeah. It sucks when people, if you sick, stay home. Just one thing I hate. We had people come. We had somebody. I was in court Monday, and somebody couldn't come in the courtroom. Well, well, you know what? That's different because what happens too, sadly, people will get attached or get a warrant for their arrest if they don't come, and some people may not be able to. But this person had one person had the flu and asked, uh, and didn't want to come in, so we had to get her her uh her subpoena to come back to court. But that's a complicated issue, and that's another way to get people locked up. But what people ought to do, and what they need to do, if you get sick, especially in a court, if you got court, is make sure you can contact the clerk of court, get a name, information, tell them, and especially depending on what division you're in, or if you're in misdemeanor, or if you're in whatever division you're supposed to go to before a judge, and just make sure they know, so that way it's relayed to the judge. That way you're not getting a bench warrant. I'm glad that your daughter is good. But yes, if you're sick, please don't show up to work. Oh, one of them folk. I think I'm gonna do a special. We're gonna go over some Christmas music. What's your favorite Christmas songs? But we're gonna wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna get on out of here. Yeah, get you some Nani's. Bye. Video soon. Got to get on up. Also, I'm about to put the paperback version for Cosby book available this week. I'm working on that right now. So you all be safe and be blessed. We're gonna have a good one, ladies and gentlemen. Good time this week. Love you all. I got another comedy show in the works. So 2022 has been a good year so far, man, despite the sadness that we've had. But y'all be safe and be blessed, y'all. I'm gonna get out of here. Peace, family. Love you.